Recently, I told you that I'd been to 25 US states, and in the comments, many of you asked me, Lawrence, which one is the most beautiful out of all of the states you've visited? And that gave me a light bulb moment. What if I objectify the states by ranking each of them on their physical attributes? In other words, ranking the landscapes and general nature of each state from utterly repulsive to truly stunning. And to do this, I'll be using something that YouTubers have never used before, a tiered list. So throughout states will be placed into one of 6 categories. The best and most beautiful being a North American 10, followed by strong potential, looks decent in warm lighting, 3 out of 10, which I only realised during the edit should really have been something more generous like 5 out of 10. So if I rank your state 3 out of 10, it's actually 5 out of 10. I just wanted to make that clear so that you don't come after me in the comments unless you also think 5 out of 10 is harsh. Indiana, and instantly forgettable. And because 25 states is quite a lot for one video, I'm making the executive decision right now that this will be a 2-part special. So if you want to be notified about part 2 and you haven't yet subscribed to this channel, do that now. In the meantime, these are the 25 states in question, and these are my correct opinions about them. By virtue of the fact that for some reason I've not been to any states beginning with A, California is up first, and I've been to California 3 times, twice to San Francisco, once to LA, and I think most Californians will probably tell me, Lawrence, those are not even the best looking parts of the state. Isn't it sort of unfair to rank an entire state by its natural beauty when you've only been to a very small portion of it? And you know what? Life isn't fair. Get used to it. That said, I think that San Francisco Bay is very picturesque. And then it's got places like Yosemite National Park, Mojave Desert, which I've seen on film. Since this is based on my experiences, I can't give it a North American 10. I think I'm going to have to put it under strong potential, and I'll see more of it in the next 40 years. It's a bit of a similar story with this next one, which is Colorado. I flew into Denver International Airport and then was bussed to this town called Westminster, which is not even the most beautiful Westminster. But along the way, in the distance, I could see mountains and things like that, so that was nice. And it seemed like it had some good trees and stuff, so that makes it high on the list. And I just know from the top of my head that Colorado is considered one of the most picturesque states with all of its rocky mountains and whatnot. I didn't get close enough to any of them. Mostly what I saw was a road. I'm tempted to go with either 3 out of 10 or strong potential. There's like no in between with that one, except for looks decent in warm lighting. But I am going to go strong potential because some of the videos I've seen make me think that Colorado could be marriage material if you could marry pieces of land. And while I'm on my computer, have you ever Googled yourself and found websites that know more about you than your own mum? Because I did, and apparently I've lived in 3 places I don't even remember. According to one site, I may be related to a Larry Pond in Iowa, which is news to both me and Larry. That's the world of data brokers, companies collecting and selling your personal info, addresses, relatives, even your shopping habits, to just about anyone with a few dollars and an internet connection. That's why I started using Incogni. Incogni contacts these data broker sites on your behalf and gets your personal data removed. It's like having a digital bouncer for your private life. And while I'm out comparing American and British post boxes, Incogni is working behind the scenes, removing my data from sites I didn't even know existed. And the best part is you don't have to fill out endless forms or figure out which sketchy part of the internet your details ended up in. Incogni handles it for you. So do what I did. Take control of your data. Head to incogni.com/lostinthepond and get an impressive 60% discount on Incogni's annual plan by using the code LOSTINTHEPOND. The link is in my description below. Apparently, I have been to Connecticut en route from New York City to Boston. The only thing I remember about it was seeing the WWE headquarters through some trees, which does remind me that the state has trees. But other than that, I'm not remembering much. Also, and I don't remember where in Connecticut this was, but we stopped at a lovely rest stop and got a nice cheeseburger. The unfortunate thing about this is that rest stop was man-made, so I can't include it in this evaluation. I'm waffling. It was instantly forgettable. Sorry, Connecticut. I'm sure if I were to go back, I might fall in love with it, but first impressions are everything. Delaware. Not a lot is known about Delaware from people outside of Delaware. And this included me up until accidentally visiting the state a few years ago. And you might be thinking, ooh, Lawrence, how do you accidentally visit a state? I don't know. We were trying to visit friends in Maryland and took a wrong turn and ended up in Wilmington, which seemed like a pleasant place. They had a river, which I photographed. Look at this. Beautiful. But again, if all you've got going for you is a river, then you better make up for it in personality. And I don't know if Delaware has a nice personality because I didn't see any people. But it's not instantly forgettable. It's certainly not Indiana. I think I'm going to go with 3 out of 10. And before I get negative comments from all 4 people, I think this has potential to go up. But you've got to show me more. I've just realised that's on me, not you. I was 8 years old when I visited Florida, and I have to say, I thought Earth outdid itself when it produced Space Mountain. Like, the tectonics involved alone were astronomical. But because most of my attention at that age was taken up by toys and rides, I don't know that I took in a lot of my natural surroundings. However, I do have some caveats. I did go to a Floridian beach, so I've checked that off my list and can therefore pass judgment. It was a pretty standard beach called New Smyrna, but I saved the life of a fish that had been washed ashore. I remember this like clear as day. And I picked it up in my hand and I threw it back in the sea and just felt really good until it washed back up and died. Florida introduced me to a couple of things. I mean, I, for instance, saw a lizard or something green with a tail. It was also the first place that I encountered palm trees. Florida, of course, is the flattest state in the land, so that probably reduces its aesthetic appeal, along with hurricanes. But I think I'm gonna have to go with looks decent in warm lighting. A few years ago, before I became a YouTube sensation, I worked for a company that sent me out on business trips to Idaho. And while you do spend a lot of your time on business trips in a conference room, I did get to see a lot of what this state has to offer. And it gave me a lot of firsts. I mean, I saw my first bald eagle in a place called Lake Coeur d'Alene. In southern Idaho, I found the Oregon Trail, somehow without losing my family to typhoid. And in Boise, the capital, I climbed up my first ever Rocky Mountain. Why did you do that, Lawrence? It's a sad story. My cat died that day, and I thought to myself, what would he have done if he was stuck in a hotel room all day? He would have climbed, not mountains, the furniture, but the sentiment remains. And it was beautiful, honestly, being this high up and looking down over the majestic city of Boise. And I just thought, wow, you don't seem to hear much about Idaho from a human standpoint, but Earth did a really good job. I think on looks, I'd have to give this one a North American 10. And now we come to Illinois, the state that I currently live in. And I've been all over the state, and what can I say? It's pretty dull. I mean, that's harsh. You know, Chicago here is, of course, situated along Lake Michigan. There are perfectly beautiful parks like Starved Rock, but it is the second flattest state. There's not a lot other than soy fields and cornfields and the occasional river of the Mississippi variety, but it's no California. If anything, it's Indiana, and that's what I'm going to rank Illinois. And you might be thinking, Lawrence, what counts as Indiana? Well, let's talk about Indiana because that's the next state alphabetically. Indiana was the first state that I lived in after moving to the United States, and it shares various properties with neighboring states, and those properties seem to be what I just said: cornfields, soy fields, barn houses, but they're man-made. Some decent birds, decent animals, nothing to write home about. You don't see a grizzly. Like when I was in Idaho, one of the leading headlines was "Grizzly Bear Attacks Chicken Coop." And you might think, well, this sounds like Indiana is instantly forgettable, which is your last category. I don't think it is instantly forgettable. I mean, I've been all over Indiana too, and there are certain places, pockets like the Dunes up north, French Lick Hotel Resort down south, and southern Indiana in general that are actually quite nice. But outside of those things, Indiana just feels like one big farm. And don't get me wrong, we need farms, but at least bring in some alligators or something. Anyway, I can't decide if I want to file this under 3 out of 10 or Indiana. It's between the two. We'll go with Indiana, but only just. Now, just south of Indiana, both on the US map and in the alphabet, is Kentucky. And I've been to Kentucky a few times. And Kentucky feels like a continuation of southern Indiana. There's lots of rolling hills. And when you get to Louisville, there's some nice man-made bridges over the Ohio River. So I think that Kentucky has a little bit going for it in that respect. And this might be a bit biased, but Kentucky is also where I saw the 2017 solar eclipse. So I think I'm going to put this under looks decent in warm lighting. And I would do that for Maine, which is next on the list, but Maine isn't really synonymous with warm lighting. I visited Portland in 2004, and Portland is itself quite a majestically pleasing place, especially for somebody who grew up on the east coast of Britain, with the waves sort of crashing against the rocks. It sort of felt like bits of Scarborough, but with more lobster. I don't remember much other than lots of trees, which I think Maine is sort of known for. I do have sort of vague pictures of it, and I remember getting a feeling of, oh, I could live here, you know, for 3 months out of the year. So I think Maine has strong potential. And then we get onto a state that I mentioned earlier, Maryland. It seemed alright, not a lot sticks out to me, other than the fact that it's located near Chesapeake Bay and there were trees. This is becoming quite a theme. But it's a theme that for most states that are east of the Mississippi. So that's not really saying much. But what I saw in Maryland was the parts that are quite flat. There wasn't anything that jumped out at me to say, Lawrence, this should be featured in National Geographic. And I think Maryland, it's a 3 out of 10 at best. Massachusetts is a difficult one. I've been to Boston and to some places in and around that area. I don't have much of a memory of any of it really, and not just because I was really drunk, but because there was nothing that stood out. You know, why can't Massachusetts have a volcano or something just to liven things up a bit? Because when you're in a Greyhound bus and you have to stay alert of the people around you, you don't want to be falling asleep, and that's pretty much what I did. Great time in Boston, don't get me wrong. Great city, great man-made skyline, but you've got to work on your topography and wildlife. This one's going under instantly forgettable. I hope I don't get more complaints from Matt Damon. And then Michigan. It's going to be really hard to rate this one because Michigan as a whole has all of these massive, some might even say great lakes around it, which of course is going to increase your physical beauty. It's just that I haven't seen any of that. I've been to Ann Arbor. Great stadium there, don't get me wrong. Really enjoyed the game. But in some respects, it was a bit like Indiana, which makes sense. They are joined. But at the back of my head, I was thinking to myself, if I were to visit Mackinac Island, which is this place where they haven't invented cars yet, I probably would have a completely different view on this. So you almost want to put it under strong potential, but those first impressions have let me down. So I think I'm going to compromise here and give it 3 out of 10. It's a bit above Indiana, and I know for a fact that it has more lighthouses than any state in the nation. So for that, it's 3 out of 10, which, as Meatloaf said, isn't bad. That was 2 out of 3. And that's it for part 1 in this list that I'm sure everybody in the comments agrees with. Let me know in the comments if you don't agree and tell me why. Stay tuned for part 2, which will be coming soon. And in the meantime, here's my confession. You'll watch that next. And until the next video, goodbye.